Hey guys, Barney St Anton here from St Anton Nutrition, and today, as requested by some friends, I'm going to be going through some tips for those that are competing at novice or amateur level strongman in terms of nutrition and diet. And I've got a good insight into these guys' specific diets, so it might not be representative of everyone everywhere, but certainly for the people that have asked for this question, it's going to be specific to them. Tip number one. So, a lot of you, and I'm just going to say, a lot of you eat too much food. You just eat too much food. So let's go through this. Compared to an average man, you are going to have a high lean body mass, you're going to have more muscle, and you're likely to be heavier, so you're going to have a higher body mass. So you are, again, going to have a higher basal metabolic rate. And because of your intensity and the duration of your training, because strongman training is difficult, and to get all your events in, especially the closer you get to competition when you are going through an event day, it's a very long training session in my experience. So for those three reasons, you would have higher requirements compared to the average man, and similarly compared to the average gym goer. Whilst I accept that your need for calories is higher than the typical man and the typical gym goer, it's nowhere near as big as I see some of you eating. You're just living the dream, irresponsibly, just eating whatever you want, okay? And to a certain extent, who cares, you know? You can put whatever you want in your body. But in my eyes, there's got to be a point where you're getting the most out of your performance, but you're also remaining accountable, responsible, and acting like an adult. I think part of this is probably skewed because we see the top level athletes and their videos showing us what they eat. I'm pretty sure you could go online and have a look at any World's Strongest Man competitor and find their diet. The two that spring to mind to me are Robert Oberst. He did a video for Munchies where he went through the supermarket and he got chatted up by old ladies, and I think he spent like $300 or something for a week's food. He made this huge bowl of pasta talking about his diet. And then more recently a Facebook post has come up from Eddie Hall, which actually put up last year, talking about what he eats in a day, which is basically about 5,000 calories of food and 1 million calories coming from protein Dynamics, who I think are his sponsor, and maybe if I can find that post I'll flash it on the screen. But a lot of people obviously want to aspire to follow the guys at the top, and you know, why wouldn't you? But there's got to be a certain point where you stop and you actually think, should I be eating what those guys are eating now at the top, or should I be eating what they were eating to get to the top? Okay, so the diet that Eddie Hall's following now isn't what he was following when he weighed 14, 15 stone, now that he weighs 27, you know? There's a gross misunderstanding there. And one more thing, it's very easy to label yourself as a strongman and then excuse overeating and binging as part of strongman. But in reality, you are human, you need to eat your requirements, because at the end of the day, the gains you're making, you want to probably ensure that they are muscle and not overly fat. So that being said, if you're eating too much, how do you address this? Well, I've put a video out previously, I'll try and link it somewhere on the screen here, talking about how to work out your calories for yourself. But basically, have a look online and find a calculator. I'd recommend following one that uses the Mifflin St. Jour. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Again, I'll flash that on the screen. And that will take into account your calories for your lean body mass, your overall body mass, and furthermore, you can adjust it for someone that has, again, high intensity, high frequency probably, and duration of training. What I would suggest doing then is finding a maintenance level from that and adding 500 calories onto that. So it probably will still be high, it'll probably be mid 3,000s maybe, off the top of my head, but it may not be as much as some of you I see eating on a regular basis. Tip number 2, so this is a bit of a grey area for me as a nutritionist, as someone that gives advice. My job role is not to prescribe information, and I certainly don't want to do that through this channel. I don't want to tell people you have to do this. I want everyone to follow my advice with critical thinking, and I want them to come to their own conclusion. That being said, I would strongly recommend to probably 99.9% of amateur strongmen, people, novice strongmen competitors, to supplement creatine if you aren't already. The creatine is going to help you put on lean body mass in the form of water, and it will also help you through explosive movements. What creatine does in a nutshell, this isn't the purpose of this video, it basically improves strength and power when training, okay, and your ability to perform those kind of movements. Some of the key elements of strongman training is strength and power, so you're pressing over your head, you're deadlifting, you're lifting stones, you're carrying objects, okay? So for not all events, you know, like maybe carrying events where you're going for max distance or stuff like that, but certainly if we're going for max reps, or max weight on lifts and stones and explosive movements like that. Again, 99% of people should take it, in my opinion. The 1% that shouldn't would be those that have kidney issues already, and I would suggest before you consider taking creatine anyway to consult with your doctor just in case. Okay, and finally the third thing I'm going to talk to you about is nutrient timings. I keep going back to this point that strongman training is so much more intense and so much longer in duration than normal training. You know, some people in the gym come in, 45 minutes, they're out. Some people an hour, maybe when I'm training powerlifting, maybe an hour and a half. Strongman is a little bit longer than that, and it's a little higher intensity throughout. So it's so important your timing pre, during and post training is on point. I'm going to flash up on the screen right now a summary table talking about the guidelines for nutrient timing for strength athletes, and I'm going to do a little commentary over them as we go through. Okay, so what I've basically got here is a summary table of nutrient timing guidelines for strength athletes according to some of the leading sports nutrition organisations out there, such as the ACSM, the ISSN and the IOC, or the International Olympic Committee. And you've got a breakdown here of some guidelines for carbohydrate, protein and fat intake, both pre, during and after training. Now, the interesting thing I want you to take away from this is that across all 3 time spans, fat intake should be minimal. Now, this will influence your choices of food intake, or it should at least, during these windows. So perhaps in your pre-training or post-training meal, go for a leaner protein source such as chicken breast or white fish, as opposed to a high-fat source such as minced beef or salmon, just to give some examples. So when we come to protein, we probably all understand or have a basic understanding of the need for protein post-training, but we don't really appreciate the need for it pre-training. So take that into consideration and consider maybe half a scoop of protein with some carbohydrate powder. We'll get into that an hour or 2 before training. And then the key area that's going to have the biggest influence on your training is your carbohydrate intake in about the 2 to 4 hour period before your training. Now, there's quite big guidelines there. So if we look at pre-training, 1 gram per kilogram to 4 grams per kilogram. Now for me, I weigh 90 kilos, so that's either 90 grams or about 360 grams. That's a huge range. Now basically, the closer you get to your training, the less carbohydrates you want to have, because they'll sit in your stomach and possibly cause gastrointestinal issues, make your stomach feel upset, and they won't have had time to process into your bloodstream. If you're eating 4 hours apart from your training in advance, that's when you can go for that big 4 grams per kilogram body weight. The closer you get, you probably want to have less carbohydrates, and interestingly, these could be more sugary carbohydrates, such as sweets or something like that. Probably not the best example, but a valid one. Then intra-training again is such a key area. 30 to 60 grams per hour, depending on how you feel. You could do this in the form of a Lucozade drink or making your own sports drink. This is really key for ensuring your muscles have enough supply of blood glucose to keep going and to prevent you from feeling fatigued. And then post-training, not as big as before, but it's important to replenish your glycogen stores that have been depleted, and it will also help with the uptake of protein into your muscles. Okay, so those have been my 3 tips for any amateur or novice strongman. Potentially any strength athlete can take these on. Some of them may have been a little bit obvious, like the creatine thing, but hopefully you took something away from actually working out how many calories you require, and perhaps how to structure them around your training to get the best out of your training, and to ensure your performance is high and consistent throughout, and to also ensure you can recover between training sessions, and to ensure your muscle growth and adaptations from training is optimal. If you found this video helpful, please have a look on my YouTube channel, subscribe, like there, share this video, whatever you want to do. Give me some comments, feedback, whatever. I'd appreciate any feedback if you're taking the time to watch this. And stick around for more. I'm going to try and upload every Friday throughout 2016. Take care, guys.